Sweet. Can you see
Yay!
me?
Hold on. I'm back. Whoa.
Awesome.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you? It's so good to see you.
I know, it's so good to see you again.
Right. I feel like it's been such a long time, but just seeing like all the amazing work that you've been doing over the past few months since we last connected, it's been so awesome to see.
Whew. I've had some huge moments. It's fascinating how, for myself at least, I've learned that I avoid stuff. And then it shows up. And it keeps showing up until I decide to work on it.
Oh yeah.
So what's going on with you?
Yeah, so nothing too much in a way, like in the sense of so I'm working on some Herpaderp episodes up and coming. There's some special guests. I'd love to introduce some folks that are working hard in the advocacy space, so I can't wait to introduce those folks as soon as the episodes come out. But yeah, aside from that, I actually just got back from a 2-week vacation and decided to do a little bit of self-care. We went to Greece and Italy with one of my friends on a group tour. So that was an amazing trip and really loved every minute of it.
Oh, that's awesome. So glad you're taking a vacation.
Oh,
I know you're so
definitely.
busy.
I know, right now coming back, I'm just like all these different opportunities and things have been coming up. So, especially with the new things working on with Herpaderp and also looking to more see what else is going on.
And I was thinking about this, even based on the last time we spoke. I would love to hear about how Herpaderp came to be and what are the new things you're doing now? Because I love you shared with me why it was created, and I thought, wow, it just really hit me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share. So, how Herpaderp came about was, well, in a way, it started off to be actually like a grad school project, a capstone project of mine, looking into, developing an app, a sort of community that I wanted to look into and realize that I didn't see that there was many support groups or even resources out there while I had going through my herpes outbreak and journey. And so then that's when I decided to create a podcast of my own. And so being able to share my story, really find those who have connected. And since then, it's just really had taken off, and being able to really share with everyone that we are really not alone in our own herpes journey, and as well as looking forward to, the things that can come from this too, and really finding, the space for grace during these times when we're, going through the initial, of what we were announced, having herpes and such. And so it's really moved me into developing these, what I call Herpaderp moments. It's just these moments of being able to overcome and find this confidence in ourselves again, whether it comes to dating or self-love and finding that inner depth. And so since I had launched the podcast, I've been able to find, you and as well as other herpes advocates as well to really speak to what we are trying to do, which is essentially break the stigma. So
Yeah, normalize.
Mhm.
So how did initially finding out you tested positive for herpes affect you? And how old were you, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, of course. I was 26 at the time that I was diagnosed with herpes, and it was, being when I was initially heard that I had herpes, it was such an interesting moment because I was going through something when I say he's more than just a friend. And so we were going through this relationship in terms of wanting to be together and whatnot. And so we were in the midst of that as kind of the background of it. But essentially one day when I just really wasn't feeling well, and just it really spoke to what I wanted to see, what was going on. It just seemed emotional from the relationship part of it, but also through what was happening in my body. And I have herpes HAC2. And so from there, like when I had gone to the doctor, like I was just, kind of in shock, but the doctor was just kind of like, oh, like, it's normal, like, like more than a lot of the population has it, blah, blah, blah. They kind of treated it as something that wasn't like as big of a deal at the time, whereas like the mental aspect of it really is what took over for me the most when I officially heard it. And so then the stigma kind of like brought in, and so it was just going through this journey of like self-discovery of trying to see like, why was the stigma affecting me so, but also how can I bring myself up from this experience.
And so did that affect you as far as like shaming yourself, like going back out into the world, like maybe like for me, it really affected my self-doubt. Like my self-worth. So I was doubting myself. Like I didn't want to put myself out there. I was afraid to really be seen, because if you see me, then you'll know that I test positive for herpes. And then what will you think? And then I'll be alone forever. Like it was this whole story. Like I wrote a story like that.
Oh yeah, no, the whole like, that I would never be loved, and I had never had a committed relationship either, like at that point too. So I was just like, how could someone love me before having this? And so I just couldn't, it's so hard to believe like we went through like that negative self-talk and to bring ourselves up from it, because there are so many of us like in the space, but also through our own personal journey that came through it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love that you were like, oh, I'm just going to create a podcast and talk about it, because that's the quickest way to get through shame is, hey, let's just bring it to the surface. Like shame dies in the light of exposure, but it grows in the dark. So if we never talk about it, then I shrink and shrink and shrink, where I just don't want people to know that I exist, because I don't even believe I should exist.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so being able to just feel this way and also want to be able to speak about it too. Like I was definitely terrified, like in terms of coming out with Herpaderp. Like at first, like I did videos, like whether I wanted to like share myself more, and I realized, like everyone needs like the human experience and like the face to the name in terms of what this experience brings, and that friendly face as well. So just wanting to really bring that light and also realism. And so I feel like that's what Herpaderp really brings, is just empowering the community, and also like so many more of us who can either fight to normalize like what we really want to have in these conversations when herpes comes up.
Yeah, and I'm always about let's normalize it, let's talk about it. And so many people are so afraid. They're so afraid to have the conversation. They make it mean something about them. Right. And that was one thing when I initially started doing work with Becky Antonucci on this. She was like, what are you making the virus mean about you? And I was like, oh, wow, I get to like dig into that. And I made it mean that I was unworthy and that I was dirty and like all the things, and that I didn't deserve love.
Yeah. No, it's, that underlying, like that, it's amazing how like love and like, herpes really come together in that sense. Cause like, that's what, we're all looking for at the end of the day, but also we don't want herpes to define like the love that we deserve, and we deserve all the love. And we want to be able to, bring in this sense of confidence in terms of just like, whether it's, owning it, but whether it's like disclosing it too. And so just being able to educate others on what herpes is, but being able to share how much like we've overcome ourselves of it as well.
Yes. Oh my God, I so love that. It was so funny because I had noticed that I stopped talking about it a little bit, probably over the last 6 months. Because what was coming up for me was I felt like I was the angry herpes girl. and of course it's all my stuff and my perception and all of that, and my interpretation, but I was feeling some kind of way, and I felt like, oh my God, when they see me, they see the angry herpes girl. And so I stopped talking about it for a little while, and a friend of mine called me and said, you used to talk about herpes all the time. Why don't you talk about it? And I shared with her actually what with like why I didn't talk about it, and she was like, well, maybe the world needs the angry herpes girl, or maybe somebody needs to hear what you have to say. And so it's interesting that I make meaning behind, I'll write stories about all of these things, and I'll allow it to stop me from relaying my message.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, when I saw I was doing that, I'm like, oh wow, I get to revisit this. And why did I think I was angry, for one? And how was I approaching it, and how would I approach it today? And I think today I'm coming from a more neutral space. I think a lot of it, I was really passionate about disclosure last year.
Yeah.
I was like so passionate about it because it hit me some kind of way, because no one disclosed it to me, and I ended up testing positive. And so my big thing is I don't ever want to put someone else in that position, right? I always will share that information. And I'm very passionate about that. And I felt like my passion was coming across a little angry last year. Yeah. So yeah, now I've realized, I'm like, you know what? It's nothing I have to say is right or wrong. It's just, about my experience.
Right.
And it gets to work, and it's speaking to somebody, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's so funny you say that, because in a way, like, I feel like I haven't been doing too many episodes lately of Herpaderp, but I feel like I have been just kind of doing that bit of searching in terms of like, how can I go deeper with myself, like whether it's like the subject or like whether it's with me, because like, where am I at this point in my journey? Because I feel, confident in a way, in the sense of, knowing who I am, what herpes has brought to me, and I'm grateful for it. But also I wonder, how to take things like to the next level to bring a more sense of community. And I feel, just definitely wanted to share that with listeners as well, is just knowing that I've been also doing kind of like this deep soul searching of what more can I bring, and what more can I also do in terms of bringing value. And recently I was with, or I have partnered with Femiclear on doing like a stigma smasher campaign, in terms of just like really figuring out like what that voice is. So I feel you in the sense of just being able to like take that time, in terms of just being like, with the, angry herpes girl, just wanting to be like, what is something that we can like break, or like move the needle more, so on. So
Yeah, and it's all about that, like that deeper dive. And and I realized, I was like, oh, I get to say whatever I want, whatever I'm feeling. It's okay. It was just so funny. I was really judging what I had to say, and I think it was because it was just coming from a different space of frustration, of like, I didn't want anyone. It was frustration of, oh wow, this really happened. And what I realized was, oh my God, I'm still treating it to a degree like it happened to me and not for me, because I believe really deep down that this entire situation it happened for me. I would never be where I am today had this not happened.
Right. Exactly.
We wouldn't be talking.
Exactly. Like, I wouldn't have grown to know you, and being able to, find this, and what many people I feel like are just really missing right now is just like that connection, like that depth.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with Herpaderp this season? What's up for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to do a lot more interviews, in the sense of just like whether folks like want to talk about like advocacy. So I really wanted to dive deeper into that with Herpaderp, and what that means, like, because there's definitely been, I feel, a few different like folks we're all conveying the same message, but I think it's so cool how we're all developing in so many different ways. So being able to like follow up also on people from the first season, just to see, what's going on. So a lot of it is about like catching up and being able to see like how